So, hi, Mami.
Hello.
Do you mind telling me a bit about yourself, your name, where you had your primary education, all the way to the university?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Uh, my name is Maame Owusuaa, and I am currently enrolled on a PhD program at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, and it's in public health and health promotion. So I had my basic education in Ghana, Kumasi, uh,
Okay.
Infant Jesus International School, and somewhere along the line, I changed schools and I went to KNUST Primary and JSS. From there, I went to Infantsiman Girls Secondary School and I read science. From Infantsiman, I came back to the university in Kumasi, KNUST again, and I read biological sciences. So from there, obviously, I did national service. And after my national service, I did a bit of work, a bit of research work. It wasn't too for a long period, and then after that, I enrolled on the master's degree program at University of Chester in England, UK, Master of Public Health degree.
And then after that, for your service, where exactly did you do it?
I did my service with the Food and Drugs Authority,
Okay.
Kumasi's Ashanti Regional Office.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that what I'm doing right now for my PhD sort of stems from there. That was where I got the inspiration, yeah, to choose the topic that I'm doing now. And I'm qualitatively exploring the lived experiences of people who abuse tramadol.
All right. So, for your master's, how did you get it? How did you hear about it? And what scholarship was it? How did you find your studies?
Okay. So when I was in tech, I used to go to Covanotti Teaching Hospital to do an internship. And I was working at the malaria lab at the time, obviously because of my biological science background. And at the time, there was a doctor called Dr. Usofori. He was working on this research project called Transfusion Malaria Study. And I found it so interesting. At the time, they were just looking at transfusion transmitted malaria in, I think, primarily in pregnant women. And I found it really interesting. So one time he was like, public health is, a very good field to look at. So when I decided to do my master's, it was between microbiology and public health. So I did a lot of background reading. I read a lot about public health, what the opportunities, the job opportunities were, where you could work, and all of that. And I was like, I really like this public health because I think that I also enjoy advocacy work. I'm somebody who likes to advocate, talk about social issues. And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I think this public health is something that I would like and
Okay.
I see myself doing for a long time. So I was just looking for schools that were offering public health. So all the schools I was looking for, I looked at American schools, I looked at Canadian schools, I looked at schools in Europe as well. And when I got admissions, I had admissions to three universities. So it was Chester, and there was Sheffield Hallam University, and there was Nottingham Trent. And I tried to apply for scholarships. And it was a very, very difficult thing because I didn't know who to ask. I'd go on the internet, search scholarship for master's students, Ghanaian master's students, and then somebody said, oh, there's Gets Fund. I should try Gets Fund. I applied to Get Fund, and somebody also told me about Commonwealth. But the thing with Commonwealth is you should have applied, I think, a year after you had because the way the deadline is structured, the time that I had my admission, it was too late for me to apply to Commonwealth.
Okay.
So my master's, unfortunately, or maybe I would say fortunately, my parents had to come in, and so my master's was self-funded.
Right.
Yes.
So, was it easy finding a job? And when you found a job, in terms of your income, was it sufficient to at least help you offset your rent and probably what you're feeding?
So I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. I had a lot of support from my parents.
Okay.
Bless them. I had a lot of support from my parents. But getting a job, I would say on a scale of 10, maybe it was an 8 for me. because I just had to look for vacancies. And as international students, you have restrictions on your visa.
Yeah.
You can't go and work full time. So yeah, it was just 20 hours per week that you had to work. And fortunately, I had a job with the University of Chester. So I was working with the university, and the university makes you work only 15 hours out of that 20 hours.
Okay.
So the 5 hours, I looked for a second job as a casual meal sorter. And that was what I did. And I think when it wasn't term time, you were allowed to do more than 20 hours.
Okay.
So that was when it came to outside of term time. Then I had to be on my guard and do all the hours that I could, so that I could support myself, and it wouldn't be so much of a burden on my parents.
All right. That's interesting. And so when you're applying to Chester, what documents did you need to apply?
So you need your transcripts from your university. So in my case, from Tech.
Okay.
And then you would need references, academic references. So you need 2 of them. Yeah, Chester required 2. I think Sheffield Hallam wanted 3. So I got 3. So when I was applying, I had 3. But then if they asked for 2, then I just sent 2.
Okay.
Yes, and then you have to write something we call a personal statement.
Okay.
And so this is you telling them what has informed your decision, why public health, why this particular school, why do you want to come to our school and pursue this degree.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, basically I think the UK doesn't charge application fees.
Okay.
The American and I think the Canadian schools do.
Yeah.
And I think it was between $30 and $50 at the time for application. Yeah, so basically these are the documents that you need.
And did you need to sit for any English proficiency exam, or how did you satisfy that requirement?
So for the American schools, I had to take a GRE.
Okay.
So that's a graduate record exam.
Exams. Yeah.
Yes, I had to take a GRE. And for the UK schools, they didn't require me to do any examination. When I started applying later, they came back and said there was an English proficiency exam that you had to take. But then I was exempted because I took a letter from the university, from Tech, that showed that my first degree was taught in English. And so I didn't need most of the schools in the UK would exempt you once they know that you did your first degree in English. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then moving on to, so after your master's, did you work before starting your PhD, or you went straight into the PhD?
So after my master's was when I went to
okay.
Cool.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, it was actually an interesting experience. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Before when I was like, I'm not sure. It's they don't speak English. It's a French-speaking country, and my French is quite basic. But then I went there, and in the working environment, everybody could express themselves in English. So I did what I would use to order my food, talk to the taxi driver. And so I got a French teacher who would come on weekends to teach me. It was a really, really interesting experience. And I think my decision to pursue a PhD, I think I settled on it when I was there. Because I was involved in a lot of research projects. So when I went, I was working under their health systems unit. And under health systems, there's something they called health and technology and innovations. And I think that was a time that I realized, this is what I have to be doing. This is what, so I decided that I would pursue a research degree once I had left the place.
All right. And so for your PhD application, how did you go about it? Did you need to write to a professor? How did you obtain your funding?
Yes. So with a PhD application, when I was looking at how to apply for a PhD, I saw a lot of people were saying you literally apply to the supervisor first. So that's how a PhD works, at least here in the UK. And I think even in the States, and even in Canada, because I also looked at Canadian schools for my PhD. So you would contact the supervisor, but first you have to have your research proposal in place first. Research proposal. And I told you how I was able to settle on what I wanted to look at when I went back to work with a consultant, and I was working with FDA. with him. There was this pharmacist at FDA that I used to liaise with when we were doing our work. And there was a lot of talk and conversation about tramadol at the time. Anytime I went there, they were talking about, FDA was talking about tramadol, working with the Ministry of Health to try and mitigate the problem of abuse. And so it was actually between tramadol and antimicrobial resistance. But then I saw, with you have to select something that will be of interest to the scholarship that you're applying to.
Yeah.
Something that, they would see like, okay, this is something that you are doing in your country. So I looked at all of that. I weighed between the two topics and I settled on the addiction, substance abuse area. So I wrote my research proposal, gave it to a couple of people. So one thing that I have realized and have learned through the journey is always ask people for help. Because ask people, because people have answers to what you're looking for. So always ask people for, if you've written your research proposal, you can ask a colleague or maybe your boss, somebody that you worked with in the past, or can you review this for me? Can you read this for me? So I sent it to my boss at WHO, and I sent one to a colleague as well. She was also a mate from my master's degree program. And they looked at it like, oh, I think this is a good proposal. They made a few recommendations on how I could tweak it to make it perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but better. So I sent my proposal. So you approach your potential supervisor. So when you're looking for the schools, let's say Robert Gordon University. You go to Robert Gordon University, I go to the Public Health and Health Promotion Department. And then there's a directory for the staff. The professors they work with, the professors who teach at that department, they have their profiles there. And so you go through it. They have details, what they are interested in, their research interests, their areas of expertise. So you go through that. And then when you see which one aligns with yours, then it means, this person is a potential supervisor. And so then I just, write the email down. So with each school, I looked for 3 supervisors who I thought would be interested in my work. And then I emailed them, telling them that, I have this background, so you tell them about your research experience. I told them where I had worked, the projects that I had been on, and I attached my proposal and my CV. And then you ask them if they are taking on new students, because sometimes they have a quota of students that they have to supervise. So if you go in and maybe they might be interested in your work, but they can't take you on because they have their hands are full. So you ask them if they are taking on students for the academic year. So yes, so some of them I sent emails, the feedback was quick. Others I waited for days and days. So the maximum that I waited was 2 weeks, and I did a follow-up. So after 2 weeks, I didn't hear from them, and then I would follow up with another email asking if they received my email, and I would be very, very happy if they could get back to me. So yes, it was a very, very intense process. So and I was looking at 4 schools. Yes. So, but I ended up applying to only 3 because the last one, my recommendations delayed. The schools, they all have different ways that they go about things. So this last school required that my recommendation is sent directly from the person would be the reference. And with that, you have to follow up with them because the professors, they are busy. So, I sent an email, please, can you, check this for me? They said they've sent you an email. They are waiting for your response. And I think he was a bit busy at the time. He couldn't, so I missed the deadline for that particular school. Looking at 3 schools now. So after you've sent the emails to the supervisors and somebody has expressed interest in you. Some of them will say that, oh, I would like to have a chat with you, maybe via Skype or via Zoom to know more about the proposal. Others to just look and say, oh, okay, I think this is good. So you can go ahead and apply. So they have to give you a go ahead. They have to say that I'm willing to supervise your work before you
Okay.
can apply to the school. So then you do your application. Yes.
Okay. Oh, so then it means your supervisor is the one currently funding you.
No. So when I did the application and it came back positive, and they said, they were happy to admit me. There was a conditional offer on condition that I am able
Obtain
to
funding.
fulfill obligations that came with admission. So it was now that I had to apply to external sources for funding. And I think with my current supervisor, he was very, very supportive and helpful. In the process, he would send me links. I think you qualify for this scholarship. You can look at it.
Oh,
He
okay.
gave resources where I could check for external scholarships. I also talked to people. I already knew about Commonwealth and Chevening, so I'd send my applications there. And again, I know that the Ghanaian government also has some scholarship schemes that they offer Ghanaian students, and I applied to all those places. For the scholarship, I went all out. There are some scholarships for women in STEM.
Okay.
So, yes, I applied to all of that. I applied to all of those ones. And between the time that my admission came and the time that my scholarship came, so I'm currently with the Ghana Secretariat Scholarship scheme. They're the ones who are funding my PhD.
That's
And
interesting.
yes, between the time that the admission came and the time that I got the scholarship, it was a lot of anxiety and uncertainty because my admission came in May. And I did not hear from any of the scholarships until August.
Okay.
So that's like even late August. And I was supposed to start school in September. So in fact, I would say I almost gave up because I'm like, hey, I don't have money,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I don't have money to pay for this. And so if
Okay.
this scholarship doesn't come through, then it means I might have to, look at other places, maybe consider PhD in Ghana,
Okay.
maybe go back to work a bit. And yeah, so between the period, I even started applying to jobs
Okay.
because I don't know if this scholarship is coming. So it was a very, very last minute that I was called for an interview. And I remember that I had to leave Kumasi to Accra and to do the interview. It was such a short notice. And the next minute, I was on the bus going to Accra for my interview. Yes.
And so, with the scholarship by the Ghana government, that's the scholarship secretariat, are there
Mhm.
conditions you need to satisfy after your program, or
Yes. There's a bond. There's a bond that requires you. So they said if the Ghanaian government needs your expertise, if they need you to hold a position or to um,
serve, or
serve or something of the sort, you have to come.
okay,
You have within 5 years.
okay,
I actually would want to go back to Ghana because public health is. I think that we have a lot of public health issues, as Ghanaians, and I would be very, very happy to go back to Ghana and pursue research, identify gaps. There are so many things that we need help with.
okay.
So yeah.
All right. And how was the application process like? Because with the scholarship secretariat, you hear so much about it and how you need to know someone before you can be awarded one, etc. How was the application process like? What
Right.
documents, what forms did you fill?
So I went there. I actually went there in person
Okay.
to inquire about what
Okay.
I need. I was given the documents that they required. They
Okay.
needed so it's basically the same documents that you need for your school application,
Okay.
sort of, because they'll need a reference. They'll need a reference, and then they will need you to fill a form. They'll
Okay.
need your application letter. So an application scholarship addressed to the registrar.
Okay.
Yes, and your research proposal.
Oh, okay.
PhD students, they require a research proposal as well, and I think it has a lot to do with the the proposal
Okay.
because they are looking that whatever you're doing is benefiting the country.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I think with Ghanaian-based scholarships, you have to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're choosing Ghana as your field, Not necessarily, but that is what I have.
Oh, you did.
I have,
Mm,
with all the people that I know who are on the scholarship, their research is Ghana based, and whatever
okay.
they're taking their samples from Ghana, and it's going to benefit Ghana long term.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. And so with the scholarship, what does it cover? Does it cover everything? Your tuition, your
Yeah,
stipends?
so the scholarship covers your tuition and your stipend.
Okay.
Yes, so yes, but it has conditions that you have. So you have to renew every year.
Oh,
I
okay.
am I'm due for renewal
Okay.
because next academic year is approaching. So
All
I've
right.
already submitted my application for renewal. So you submit an application, and then there's a form that you need to fill that you call a progress report.
Okay.
There's a form that you need to fill. So yeah, you'd have to tell them how you're getting on. What have you done? Are you getting any papers published?
Oh, okay.
Have you to if you are taking any classroom courses? Have you been able to make good grades? What are your supervisors saying about you?
Okay.
So yeah, it's not automatic that you have to prove that they you deserve the next academic year funding.
All right. And so did it also take care of your plane ticket? And now that you're in the UK, for example, you're talking about issues that have to do with Ghana. That's for your PhD thesis. So, for example, if you had to go back to Ghana to probably collect data, would
Mhm.
the scholarship secretariat pay for your flight tickets, etc.?
Okay. So, when in the beginning, I said one thing that I have learned is that you always have to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had to pay for my own flight tickets when I was coming.
Right.
But later on, I realized that if I needed help with the flight ticket, I could have contacted the scholarship and they were ready to foot that bill for me. Because
Right.
later on, I heard that if you spoke to them, it's also a very supportive scholarship. When we came, they organized workshops for us, how to live in the UK. I had already previously lived here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that some people, it's their first time. So it's a supportive scholarship. They'll help you navigate, the system and teach you things that you need to do to be able to live here and enjoy your experience. So yes, I didn't ask. I didn't ask. If I had asked, this they would have footed that bill too. And in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the research, so you have to also apply for that. I've applied for, so they call it the annual research allowance and conference allowance for PhD students. So you have to write a funding proposal for your research, and you have to come up with a budget.
Okay.
So yeah, so you have to include everything: your flight tickets. Are you going to use assistants, researchers? Are you going to need help? If how many of them are you taking?
Oh,
How
okay.
much you intend to pay them?
Okay.
How much you intend to give your research participants? Are you giving them something to motivate them?
Okay.
So all of that you have to put into your
Into it.
funding proposal,
All
and
right.
they'll cater.
Oh, that's very interesting. Wow. And so this will be my last question. What do you have for your junior colleagues back in Ghana, those who have interest in pursuing a career in academia? And what message do you have for them?
Yes. So most people say if you are doing a PhD is like purely research, and so you are stuck with your computer, you are working 24/7 on your research. But I find that it's not necessarily so. There are so many other things, trainings that you go through as a PhD student. I think that PhDs in recent times even equips you for industry as well, because
Yes.
there are so many things that you are doing,
Mhm.
which is not necessarily on your research. So it's a very, very interesting thing to do. And I will say again, ask questions. Ask questions. And do a lot of reading. There's so much information on the internet. Even on YouTube, you find all these videos telling you how you can apply to a PhD, how you can quickly, there are even videos that show you how to quickly get a supervisor's attention and how to select who it's best, and even how to pick the schools. Because I got admission from two of the schools out of the three that I applied, and I had to make a decision. And so they'll teach you all the things that you have to consider before you settle with, which school, because it's also important. It's important who you are settling with, because there are some people that they just want to take on students because that's how you attain professorship in
Yeah.
some of the schools.
Yeah.
So they just need PhD students so that they can attain, and you get on the program, and it's very difficult. You don't get support, they don't have time. So you have to select people who are who are enthusiastic about your research. So yes, so ask questions, read, because really PhD is about reading. So if you don't like reading, you won't be able to um, be successful at it. And I find that there are other ways of getting into the PhD. Aside you writing your own proposal, some of the universities already have research that they are working on. And so they put it out there that they are looking for a PhD candidate who can do this research. So then they have the topic for you, and then you have to write a good proposal for the
Okay.
topic. And most of those ones are fully funded.
Okay.
Tuition, for example, they pay for the fees,
Okay.
and maybe you might have to look for stipend elsewhere. But yeah, those are also very good ones that you can look at. So yeah, ask questions, and also make acquaintances, because in research you need people that you work with in future. After the PhD, you have to do collaborative research. So talk to people, make acquaintances, and yeah, that's it.
Right. Thank you very much, Mami. It was nice having you, and
Thank you.
I'm very grateful for the time you've committed to share your experience with me and those who'd be watching.
It's been an interesting.
Thank you.